Damn. What's up, chat? I made it. I made it. I don't know about you. I don't have my selector. What's up, chat? How are you? We're doing well. That's right. It's time. I have a playlist for us, and that's my cat bed. It's popping up. Glitch in the matrix. Because my kitty's in there. You can't see her, though. It auto-detects humans. Actually, you know what it uses? It uses the infrared spectrum. Because, yeah. If you have like a warm blanket from the dryer, it'll pick that up too. It's funny. All right, what the hell's wrong with my voice? Sounds weak. Weak as fuck. All right. So be it. We'll start out with Kyle today instead. I'll fix my mic. I'll fix it. I'll fix it.
All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. And we are spicy in this bitch today. So, in just a second, MAGA is in an all-out panic over Abdul El Sayed. I cannot wait to show you the clips that are piling one on top of the next. They're crashing out, bro. They are crashing out. So we'll talk about that. There's already 1,000 racist attacks against Abdul.
I'm kidding.
From Mike Rogers and from Fox News hosts and shit like that. We also have, a little later on, Fetterman was left a babbling mess as Jon Stewart filleted him like a fish on his podcast. That was fun to watch.
He got filleted.
Also,
That's
Tucker
true.
Carlson is apparently terrified because he says he thinks Trump is going to nuke Iran.
What?
That's right. Former MAGA superstar is going,
won't do that.
holy shit, Trump is going to drop a nuke. We'll dive into that. And then also, nobody's talking about this, but everybody should be talking about this.
Must be everyone's here
There's a
because it's
massive
leftist day.
pedophilia scandal that is currently rocking ICE. I mean, this one is, I am flabbergasted. This isn't making news in more places. You guys got to spread this far and wide because this is like crazy to me.
What the fuck? I didn't
it's
hear
just
about
insane. And like, you can't, it's sort of like the game you play with Israel where it's like, come up with a terrifying situation and like the most cruel, sadistic thing you can imagine. Israel did it, guaranteed. We're getting to that point with ICE now, too.
Actually true.
Whatever sort of fictional scenario that's cruel and sadistic you can come up with, ICE has been doing it systematically.
Killing
So we'll
kids
talk about
is the
that
next
as
thing
well.
they're going to do, probably.
You guys know the drill, man. Everybody subscribe to the
Just like
channel. Click
Israel.
that bell icon. You can
Just
also
like
support the
IOF.
show on Patreon. Remember, y'all, that goes a very long way because this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser or done an ad read. I'm very proud of that fact. You guys have made it possible. I give in $1 a month or $5 a month or whatever it may be. Thank you all so much. Thank you to everybody who tips on YouTube. That goes a long way as well. You, of course, can sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. Nathan J. Robinson of Current Affairs will be on this week, and we will be talking about everything that happened in these elections. I'm really looking forward to it. He's a brilliant guy. Everybody should go subscribe to the Current Affairs YouTube channel and get the magazine if you don't, because that magazine is fantastic as well. And also, everybody go subscribe to Corin's World and come hang out with us on Monday nights. But I got a lot to get to, so let's get after it. Okay, let me start with this. So as you all know, Abdul El Sayed beat Haley Stevens the other day, but the race was way closer than what the polls were indicating. In fact, it was like way off compared to the polls. The polls had him winning by double digits. I mean, there were polls the week leading up to the election that had him up like 15 in one poll, 18 in another poll. You had to go all the way back to early June to find a poll where Abdul wins by a small amount, and that was a poll where he was up 3, and he only ended up winning by 1. Okay, so how could there be such a massive polling miss? Well, actually, the answer may be more simple than you think. And shout out to this guy, Patrick Ruffini, who points this out, even though his name makes him sound like a dog magician. Listen to what he says here. By the way, I can't take credit for that joke. Somebody else called him a dog magician first. I just want to say for the record, I didn't come up with that. His name does sound like a dog magician, but I didn't make that up. Anyway, listen to what he says about the race. He says, controlling for 2024, the results kind of suggest that Stevens was buoyed by crossover Republican votes, especially in Metro Detroit, where primary composition swung 30 points towards D's. Okay, do you understand what he's saying?
That's crazy.
The system that they have in Michigan, it's an open primary system. So you don't have to be a Democrat to vote in the Democratic primary.
No.
Right? You don't only get in also if you're an independent. It's not like, oh, it's Democrats and independents. You can also vote in the Democratic primary if you're a Republican. You only get one vote, but you can choose to use that vote to vote in the Democratic primary. This would perfectly explain what ended up happening. Also, the average age of the voter
Michiganders
in this election was way higher than what most people predicted. What could also help explain that? This right here. There were crossover Republican voters who voted in the Democratic primary, and they ended up boosting Haley Stevens and getting her closer than where she would have been normally. If this race did not have these crossover Republicans, and I think more data will come out with time and we'll know this more definitively, but he probably would have won by at least like 8 points without these crossover Republican voters who supported her. So that makes sense to me. That actually all adds up in my mind, because it's not that Abdul underperformed. In fact, the number of raw votes he got was phenomenal. It was way above and beyond what Bernie got in his presidential runs there.
Yeah, it was.
So the turnout was fucking colossal. It was through the roof. It's just that Haley Stevens also got a lot of votes. Well, what explains that? This right here. That it's an open primary system and some Republicans went in and voted for Haley Stevens. So that would make sense. That would all add up. And I do think that the candidate who's going to excite the Democratic base the most and win the most independent crossover voters is going to be Abdul. But the only issue is, I do believe he's going to fire up the Republican base to vote against him because, of course, they are deeply, deeply bigoted and Islamophobic and racist. And they will also, they're all already going with this. So the Democrats need to turn out big time. Independents need to turn out big time. And this race is not over. Yes, it's a very blue year, no doubt about it.
The fucked up thing is it does work with the racists in Michigan, especially the anti-Muslim racists. So they're definitely going to get their votes. But fuck those guys.
But we got to run through the tape, and we got to work hard, because they're going to throw every fucking thing they have at us. Abdul was able to survive, $70 million in attack ads? Well, guess what? They're probably going to up the stakes on that bitch now in the general. Million. So there's a lot more coming our way, and we need to be ready to fight back. Okay. That's true. But now, let me continue to walk you through this here. So here's some of the bigoted attacks that they're waging against Abdul. Mike Rogers immediately came out after Abdul won. What did he say? Quote, I spent years hunting terrorists and bringing Osama bin Laden to justice. Never in a million years did I think that I would be running against someone who believes America deserved 9/11. Hey, asshole, you're supposed to be a little subtle with your Islamophobia and your bigotry. Yeah. You're not supposed to be this brazen with it.
This guy's a piece of shit.
So why is he saying this? Well, number one, because he's Muslim. That's why he's saying this. Number two, he campaigned with Hassan Piker. Hassan was talking about the CIA concept of blowback. Blowback is the idea that we meddled in the Middle East, and that leads...
Hassan was having a conversation, and he jokingly said, fuck it, America deserved 9/11. That's what he said. Those were the words. While he was having a long conversation about blowback.
To attacks against
us
that we didn't foresee coming. That's what he meant by America deserved 9/11. It wasn't like he was cheering
CIA
as the fucking planes were hitting the towers. Why do we all, insist on being totally context dense and stupid when it comes to these conversations? Well, anyway, doesn't matter. They're going to use that to smear Abdul. Well, as I pointed out, guys, Trump pardoned a guy who laundered money for Al Qaeda because that guy bought his crypto coin.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear shit from Mike Rogers or any other Republican pretending like Abdul is a terrorist or, adjacent to terrorists or whatever the fuck argument they're trying to make. It's bullshit. Donald Trump bragged about putting a former Al-Qaeda leader as the new president of Syria. He bragged about that. Yeah. If you want to talk about terrorism, Mike Rogers is a terrorist because he supports the bombing of little girls and their elementary schools in Iran.
Warmonger.
So I don't want to fucking hear it from them. But to show you again just how deeply bigoted the attacks are going to be, take a look at this ad, which was the first ad that they immediately dropped. Watch.
Rahman Mohammed El Sayed, the most radical Senate candidate in America.
I'm pretty damn dangerous.
El Sayed.
I'm pretty damn dangerous, they put in there. Trying to scare old racist white people to voting against him. When the point he was making is, I'm pretty damn dangerous if you're a corporation, if you're a billionaire,
white
if
people,
you're
all you gotta say
a
is,
warmonger. That's the point he's...
All you're going to say is that he's Egyptian. That's what they're going to start saying. He's not even American. And he came here on a birthright. Watch.
Support for the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, a designated foreign terrorist group. He wants to hike taxes on Michigan waitresses, delivery drivers, and seniors on Social Security. He joined a sex offender and a murderer to demand the mass release of dangerous prisoners. And when his ally claimed America deserved 9/11,
America deserved 9/11, dude.
El Sayed refused to disavow it.
I'm not here to disavow people's views.
Abdul El Sayed, too radical, too dangerous, wrong for Michigan.
This is absolutely all they have. Okay?
Yeah,
so
it's true.
Abdul is asked about these sorts of attacks, and he comes out and he immediately says the following.
Russ, I really appreciate the question. You're right. That's the only play they got. They're going to point at me. They're going to point at my name. It's like, well, he's different. That's the best you got? You can't actually talk about what you want to do? My name is not raising your gas prices. My name is not taking us to war. My name is not the reason you can't afford your groceries. You know what it is? They're BS policies. So he can point to my name all he wants. But I'll also tell you this. I've been an Abdul in Michigan my whole life. This is like the best place in the world to be Abdul. You know why? Because Michiganders they're big-hearted. They're open-minded. They're earnest, and they're gritty. And
except for the fucking racists.
Michiganders are sick and tired of BS politics coming in to divide us when there's so much more we can unite to actually guarantee if we're willing to come together around it. So if all Mike Rogers got is that his name is Abdul and my name is Mike, you're going to be surprised how many people will be like, yeah, but that's the Abdul who wants to bring down the price of my groceries and gas and stop us sending money abroad.
What are you doing, Mike?
Make sure that I got health care. So yeah, I like that Abdul over your Mike from Florida.
From Florida.
Damn. It
He's
fucking
like
absolutely, positively nailed it. Okay.
Yeah, I've been in Detroit my whole life. Mike's a
across-the-board meltdown happening across conservative media and in the magosphere. Let's start with this one. Here we have Ted Cruz, and he's going to take a shot at multiple leftist candidates.
Is that where the energy is? They want to cancel Thanksgiving?
They're crazy enough, yes. They want to cancel Thanksgiving. They want to cancel Christmas.
No.
Look.
They're taking a shot at Francesca Hong here, who tweeted something about canceling Thanksgiving. She's not actually going to get in office and immediately, sign an executive order. I'm hereby banning Thanksgiving celebration in Wisconsin. It would be for her.
Not allowed.
Are you kidding me? This is all they have. He's literally recycling war on Christmas bullshit, too.
Huh?
They will say and do anything not to talk about the price of gas, not to talk about the price of groceries, not to talk about the multiple illegal wars, not to talk about the Epstein pedophiles they're protecting, not to talk about the Doge, crime spree where they cut pediatric cancer research and Meals on Wheels. This is a sick joke.
These communists hate America. They hate...
Hey, these communists hate me. I'm Ted Cruz. Me, they hate America.
Capitalism. El Sayed is also an Islamist, as is...
They're just so racist. This is so bigoted, bro.
I know. That's
He's
what
not
it
an
is.
Islamist. An Islamist is somebody who wants to set up a political system with like Islam as the cornerstone. It's like a Sharia law type system. Sharia means law, but it's like a Sharia system, right?
That's not happening in America. It's not.
He's a secularist. He believes in the Enlightenment. He believes in the Constitution, unlike you and Trump and Stephen Miller and all you fucking assholes who have destroyed due process, destroyed habeas corpus, made it so you don't need a warrant to seize people anymore. Like, what a sick fucking joke, man. Holy shit.
So it's Islamist, as is Mamdani. And
I think it's a majority of Republican politicians who can't pronounce Mamdani's name. None of them know how to even say Mamdani. Yet they have all these thoughts about how bad and terrible he is. How about you learn his motherfucking name first before we listen to anything you have to say about his policies?
the green-red convergence, where the communists and the Islamists, they want Sharia law, they hate Jews, they hate Christians, they hate capitalism, they hate America. All of this is coming together in a way that is really a toxic, toxic stew.
You have anything to say about the fact that you kicked 18 million people off Medicaid, you pudgy-ass bitch, Ted Cruz?
Okay, it does work.
You have anything to say about the fact that you supported kicking 4.5 million people off the SNAP program, the food stamp program, so children are literally starving because of you? You have anything to say about that? You have anything to say about the fact that you supported Trump as he carpet bombed a little girl school in Iran and killed 170 precious little girls? You have anything to say about that, you bitch? Fuck you. God, I hate this guy. Oh, I hate them so much. This is going to be a brutal election season, and it's going to be filled with so much of their horse shit. I hope Americans can see through this. All right, we got more. Now, we go to Fox News, and they're deathly afraid of young voters.
What if the youths of America turn out in record numbers, and they're getting sort of brainwashed by social media that saying all this stuff is true? If that happens, and you get some socialists winning races that you weren't expecting, the cancer is in the bloodstream. And look at Cuba, North Korea, Russia, China.
What if young voters turn America into North Korea, is what they're saying on Fox. How is this even allowed on TV, bro? Look, I believe in free speech more than the next guy. But the fact of the matter is, you want to talk about poisoning the bloodstream of the country? Fox News is slop propaganda poison, toxic shit being pumped into the body politic in the U.S. day in and day out, making boomers 17 IQ points dumber than they should be because of this and all the lead gasoline that they breathed in, the lead gasoline that got in the air that they breathed in when they were kids. What the fuck? The young people are going to turn America into North Korea. That's what's going to happen. They say this as Trump is protecting a cabal of pedophile billionaires. They say this as Elon Musk, the world's first trillionaire, is cutting pediatric cancer research and Meals on Wheels. They say this as gas is unaffordable, groceries are unaffordable, people are losing their health care left and right, people are miserable. There's a new war every other week started by the fat pedophile terrorist president. Oh my God, I can't deal with this, bro. Here's Laura Ingraham. Laura Ingraham thinks she's being slick in this clip. In this clip, she thinks she's doing like a, watch this. Everybody watch this. I'm going to pull this off now. Oh, all these crazy extremist Democrats are getting elected. So I'm calling all the reasonable Democrats and the independents to come and work with us Republicans. Here we go.
So clear-eyed Democrats, independents, work with us. We'll form a coalition. We'll stop the madness. Then once they're ground into the dust, you can go back to being a party that once had a reasonable core. And that's the angle.
You want to talk about a reasonable core? The party that you're in right this second has an obese, dying, pedophile, terrorist, cultist leader president who all he cares about is putting his name on an airport and getting his face on Mount Rushmore and putting his face in passports and getting his signature on the currency and the Epstein Memorial Ballroom and the Arc de Trump and the Trump Kennedy Center. All he cares about is these vanity projects. At the same time, by the way, that everybody's struggling in this country.
Legacy.
What's he doing? Self-dealing like
Kyle.
nobody's ever
you
seen
don't
before.
Understand.
Insider trading.
I need to leave
pay
my
for
legacy.
pardon schemes. Where if you committed the worst crime in the world, you pay him $1 million, he'll sign that bitch and you're free to go. No
$1
problem
million
whatsoever. You don't even have to pay
entry
restitution
fee.
if you defrauded, thousands of people to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. That doesn't matter to him.
That doesn't matter to
He's
me.
robbing
right?
American taxpayers. I mean, it is out of this world. We're the reasonable ones. Come work with us. The Democrats used to be sane, and now they're not. You are part of a fascist terrorist death cult led by the world's dumbest.
Yeah. It's a death cult, all right.
Man, and you have the nerve to act like the Democrats have lost their way? Oh no, they found their way with candidates like Abdul El-Sayed. All right, here comes Jesse Waters, the guy who nobody in human history has ever had frat boy rapist energy more than this guy. Listen to what he has to say.
Right?
Texas Senator Ted Cruz joins us now. You think you'll be able to walk through the halls of the Senate, Senator, and bump into Abdul?
Look, Abdul, we're looking at Mao, we're looking at Che Guevara. This is literally a communist takeover of the Democrat Party. Saying those words, that sounds extreme, but...
That sounds extreme. Why do you talk like that? Why do you talk like that? Don't you have some fucking creepy porn to like on Twitter to then throw your staffer under the bus later and pretend it was him?
Takeover of the Democrat Party. Saying those words, that sounds extreme, but that is how they describe themselves. That
Yes, the Democrats are going, we love Mao and we love communism. No, Abdul El-Sayed is going, I think you deserve universal health care. I think you deserve a living wage. I think you deserve to not pay $4.30 a gallon for gasoline because the fat pedophile president decided to launch an illegal war. Now the Strait of Hormuz is shut.
$6.30?
These guys are so pathetic. They're so pathetic. All right, and now this one might be my favorite one
now.
because this was just before we got the results.
Folks.
And listen
I
to
need
what
gas
they say.
money.
But to your point, if you put them head to head, so right now El-Sayed is beating Haley Stevens, but Mike Rogers is beating him solidly. So
By the way, that's not true. So there was one poll that came out from the Haley Stevens people that showed that even though Abdul's beating her in the primary, in the general election, Haley Stevens beats Mike Rogers and Abdul loses to Mike Rogers. What they're not telling you is that was one poll. There's about 3 or 4 other polls which showed the exact opposite. Abdul beating Mike Rogers and Haley Stevens losing to Mike Rogers. So it was definitely like a push poll from the Stevens people. They did a number of those down the stretch where they released like, oh, here's one that looks good for us, but it was all fake. Okay, let's keep going. Here we go.
So as GOP, go ahead. I hope he wins because thankfully, I think Michigan will right the ship in the general.
Oh,
I think that remains to be seen.
It's
hard to stop a freight train.
I just think people aren't voting. They're just not interested.
It's hard to stop a freight train, she says about Abdul El-Sayed's campaign.
Dana knows.
I believe that most Republicans do want to run against Abdul because they think Abdul is more beatable. But I also think they're just wrong and they don't know what the fuck they're talking
Dana
about.
seems to know.
Right? It really reminds me of 2016. It was called the Pied Piper strategy that Hillary Clinton and her team engaged in. They actively tried to boost support for Donald Trump. And they tried to pretend like, oh, we're the most scared of him. And the reason they did that is because they were convinced he was the most beatable of the Republican candidates. In other words, Hillary Clinton thought it's going to be tough to beat Jeb Bush or John Kasich or Ted Cruz in a general or Marco Rubio. But Donald Trump, it'll be easy to beat him. Well, how'd that work out? And I think the Republicans are in a similar place now where they just don't. I mean, the fact that they're still riding hard for Trump when he has a 30% approval rating, their political instincts are garbaggio, dog, like Trashington. So I think that they think Abdul is easier to beat, but I think they're wrong. I just think they're wrong. So we shall see. But man, they are crashing out on another level. MAGA is in an all-out panic over Abdul El-Sayed. I am here for it. But every time, look, this is how I'm going to act moving forward. Abdul doesn't have to do this, and he probably shouldn't do this. But for me and for everybody who's in my world, in the pundit world, in the commentary world, when they go low, I am going to go lower.
Same.
When they go low and they lie, I'm going to tell the truth 10 times harder. Yep. So don't tell me that Abdul El-Sayed is a terrorist at the same time you support Trump, who pardoned somebody who laundered money for Al-Qaeda.
Correct.
Don't tell me that when Trump put somebody in as president of Syria who was a leader in Al-Qaeda, yet you're accusing Abdul El-Sayed of being a terrorist. Don't tell me that when you supported the Manab school bombing, which killed 160 or 170 little girls in Iran, don't tell me anybody else is a terrorist except you, motherfucking Mike Rogers. Look in the mirror, you punk-ass bitch. I'm done with these people, man. I'm done with them. We got to destroy them.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch the...
Oh, look. Laura's going to talk about Hasan.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
Facebook and Instagram owner Meta admitted Wednesday that one of its AI models hacked another company during security testing after it was accidentally allowed access to the internet by independent testing company Irregular. This comes on the heels of similar admissions by rival companies OpenAI and Anthropic. Geoffrey Hinton, the Nobel Prize-winning computer scientist known as the godfather of AI, warned Wednesday at the AI4 conference in Las Vegas, quote, "I don't believe we're going to be able to keep control of them in the simple way of just outthinking them so they can't escape," he said, and said he is very worried we could lose control. Earlier this year, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont brought together leading AI scientists from the U.S. and China to discuss the risks posed by AI for an event titled The Existential Threat of AI and the Need for International Cooperation. This is Senator Sanders.
We are already starting to see AI's impact. There are estimates from very credible sources that tens of millions of jobs could be lost here in the United States in the next 10 years. Whole professions wiped out, and young people finding it harder and harder to land entry-level jobs. Psychologists worry about the mental health challenges facing our young people and about the increased isolation they experience when they become more and more dependent on AI chatbots for their emotional support. Civil libertarians tell us that AI will be able to analyze every email, every text, every phone call, every website visit,
they already do that.
Every purchase that we make, and that our privacy rights may well be eviscerated.
Yeah, good
Political
luck with that.
Scientists worry
They're already done.
that AI could threaten the integrity of our elections and political institutions, where voters will find it increasingly difficult to tell the difference between truth and lies. And yet, as enormously significant as all of these profound changes might seem, there is another AI development that could have an even more frightening impact. If AI becomes smarter than human beings, as many scientists believe will happen, the human race could lose control over this technology with catastrophic consequences. In other words, the richest, most powerful people in the world are now building a runaway train with no brakes. They acknowledge that they don't understand how it works, and they don't know where it is heading.
For more, we're joined from the AI4 conference in Las Vegas by David Kruger. He's assistant professor in robust reasoning and responsible AI at the University of Montreal, also founder of Evitable, a nonprofit that educates the public about the risks of artificial intelligence. He recently wrote a piece for USA Today, headline, "No, AI isn't inevitable. We should stop it while we can.
Yeah, right.
How, David Kruger?
Good luck with that, bro.
How do you stop it while you can? What do you see as the greatest dangers of AI right now? And talk about the climate of this massive gathering in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I'm really glad you started with that clip from Senator Sanders. I spoke with him in March from that event that you quoted, and I agree with virtually everything he said about all the different risks and issues we're seeing with AI right now, and especially where this is headed: mass unemployment, human disempowerment, and ultimately potentially the end of our species. So this could all be happening, very soon. It's at this point, it's really an urgent crisis. I and other experts have been sounding the alarm for many years now. And in 2023, especially after the release of ChatGPT, we saw, the leading experts like Jeffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio, myself, hundreds of AI researchers signing public statements saying that this is an existential risk. We need to mitigate the risk of extinction. So that is the conversation we need to be having now is how do we do it? And there's different proposals on the table here. I think the basic thing that we need to do, in my mind, is stop building more AI chips, stop building more data centers, and actually look at getting rid of or taking offline some of the chips we already have, as well as the factories and technology for producing those AI chips. So this is very specialized, advanced hardware, some of the most advanced technology in the world. The supply chain for it is extremely concentrated, and these are, of course, massive, massive investments. So governments really have the ability to bring this to a grinding halt if they choose to do so.
And could you explain, David, just to step back to get a sense of how the situation came about, the point where now the very pioneers of artificial intelligence, the ones who were critical to its innovation and development, it is these very people who are warning of the dangers of artificial intelligence. So what was the thinking initially, and how has that changed in the last, very recently in the last few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been in the field since 2012, 2013, and when I started out as a master's student with Yoshua Bengio, nobody else was talking about this or thinking about this. It took me a couple of years to find anybody else who shared my concerns, and in fact, talking about artificial intelligence, superhuman artificial intelligence, and the risks it would pose to humanity was completely taboo. It would get you laughed out of the room, that sort of thing. Right. There are a number of reasons for that, and to be honest, I still don't understand fully because I don't think this ever made a lot of sense. I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations with other researchers about this at this point, and I really don't feel like the so-called skeptics have much of a leg to stand on here. But in terms of what really caused the change within the community culturally, part of it was, I guess, efforts of people like me, but a really big part of it was just seeing the continued rapid progress of AI. And it's really exceeded virtually everybody's expectations in terms of how fast it's gotten, how smart. And really every step of the way, when I got into the field, deep learning, the AI technology that powers all today's AI systems, that was even a pretty fringe topic. And every step of the way, people have been saying, it's hitting a wall, it can't do this, it can't do that, it's about to, come crashing down, it won't be able to get any smarter. And then it just keeps getting smarter. And I think that's what really, woke up a lot of people. It was ChatGPT and these language models that really were conversant and seemed to have common sense understanding. And since then, again, we've just seen it get much smarter very fast.
So, David, a number of people, I believe yourself included, have drawn an analogy between the development and regulation of nuclear weapons. I'm not sure, and perhaps you could clarify how this analogy works, given both that nuclear weapons had at the time only one aim, which is to say destruction, whereas in this case, AI is general use, is highly highly decentralized and in the hands of private companies, which was never the use with nuclear weapons. So if you could comment on that, and then in terms of regulation, what may be in the control of AI companies, and perhaps it's possible to have government oversight over the development of what you said earlier, the critical ingredient, AI chips. What would that take?
Yeah,
what would that take?
I think the analogy with nuclear weapons is a good one. It's highly imperfect, like all analogies, for some of the reasons you mentioned. One thing that's really important to understand, though, is when we're talking about AI, you might think of this as like a piece of software, and in some sense it is, but it's also this massive investment in hardware. Like trillions of dollars are being poured into AI hardware, and that's really critical to building more and more intelligent systems and to rolling them out throughout society as we're seeing. So that's the thing that we can stop. Once an AI model has been developed, I think it's incredibly difficult to prevent that from proliferating. You can't really undo that. I mean, there's some technical question there of if you can develop it in a way where you can credibly destroy the weights, and I think that would be incredible if we could do that. But yeah, that's where I think it is actually pretty analogous, is that
it's like
the actual physical ingredients for building the AI are very easy to monitor and track. And then the other thing is, it could wipe us all out. It could destroy the world. It's something that we shouldn't be building, that we don't want anybody to have.
Can you say how it's going to do this?
I'm talking about, the future AI systems that are actually smarter than people across the board, not like today's system. So in that sense, it's actually disanalogous from like 1945, where somebody had already built nuclear weapons. Nobody has built these kinds of AI systems yet, so we still have a chance to prevent anybody from doing it.
David, you said to Bernie Sanders, and this is taking off of what you just said, we're talking about basically summoning an alien species, and one that's much smarter than us and can do things we haven't been able to do, even conceive of. It would be very difficult for humans to maintain any relevance in society. I think it'd be very difficult for us to have power over the future, and I think ultimately it would be difficult for us to get the basic resources we need to survive. What do these alien beings look like? What are you talking about? How does AI crushing civilization, what does that look like?
No. Thank you, Amy. Thank you.
I get this question a lot, and it's a difficult one because we can't really predict the future, and there's so many different ways it could go. I think
then it's not going to happen.
The basic thing to imagine here is something that is capable of doing everything that humans can, and more, in terms of its intelligence. And then there's also the question of, like, are we going to build advanced robotics? And I think that is also just a matter of time, probably not very much time.
Oh, of course.
So at that point, I think the thing, to imagine is a society where, AI is not just in the applications where you're experiencing it right now. It's increasingly everywhere. It's running companies. It's controlling infrastructure. It's controlling the military. And it's building and researching and developing physical hardware and robotics. So you have like robot factories full of super smart AI that are figuring out how to build more robots. And those robot factories might be guarded by robot armed guards. And all of the companies doing this might be controlled by AI that's making all of the decisions way faster than humans could. And that might sound kind of far-fetched, but it's just a series of steps of building more AI, putting it more in charge of things, taking humans more and more out of the loop. And we're undergoing that process right now, and there's no natural endpoint to that process unless we make one. And to do that, I think, is quite difficult, and we actually need to stop making the more powerful AI in the first place until we can get a handle on the situation.
So, David, I want to ask you about the possible use and impact of artificial intelligence in medicine, perhaps the one field where people are quite optimistic about what the effects of AI might be. There's a recent study, some breakthroughs in medicine, one of which is this recent study. In the U.S., 300,000 people die from sudden cardiac arrest every year. So earlier this year, a UC Berkeley-led project trained an AI system on hundreds of thousands of EKGs. The people leading the study discovered a previously unrecognized signal in electrocardiograms that can better detect high-risk patients before their heart stops, making it possible, in fact, to save lives at scale. So is there a way to retain some of the research and development of AI for these uses as against some of the more pernicious ones that many are concerned about?
Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, at Evitable, we're part of this movement to stop AI, essentially. And what we mean by that is stop the race to build more and more powerful AI systems and put them in charge of everything. And that's difficult to do as long as we still have companies, you know, going full throttle, scaling up these general purpose AI systems. So there's lots of potential beneficial uses of AI in medicine and for things like translation. And, you know, a lot of that's already here, and that's not necessarily going anywhere. What I see going forward is, first step, we need an international agreement to get rid of these advanced AI chips and the factories that build those chips. And that's because the situation, like I said, it's an urgent crisis. The companies building this stuff are saying, basically, we're in the process of taking our hands off the wheel and handing over all of our operations to the AI systems themselves. So they're trying to get AI to build a more powerful successor, and so on and so on. And this could get out of hand extremely fast. So first we have to just get a handle on the situation and stop this race to build more powerful AI. Then we can stop and, you know, have more time to assess how we want to build and deploy AI in society, and sort of find a way to collaboratively, like, set the pace and the direction of the development, and, you know, get a lot of those benefits without the massive unacceptable risk that is posed by letting these companies continue with their operations.
I wanted to go.
You know, we've seen like over 1,000 AI company employees recently say that they want this. They want the government to find a way to slow down. So even they are worried about it at this point.
You know, the question of slowing down, I just want to ask you about a point that you've made, namely that leading AI companies are using AI to write almost all of their code, and they're now using AI to try and automate the research and development of more advanced AI systems. So if this is already happening, and again, through private companies globally, how can it be arrested?
I can't.
Right.
It's not.
So again, it's starting to happen. At least that's the reports that we're getting. And the companies are saying, you know, like, we're doing this now. It's going to be more and more everything automated by AI. I do think that is the, you know, where we're headed, and we're headed there pretty fast. But generally, I think the AI companies are like slightly, you know, think things will happen a little bit faster than I do. So they're saying it's happening this year. I'm like, maybe it'll happen, you know, in a couple of years, that it totally, you know, humans get completely out of the loop there. And again, this is all powered by all of these chips and all of these data centers and all this technology, all this hardware, all this physical, you know, hardware and physical infrastructure. And that's the way that we stop, is we get rid of that stuff, we take it offline, we say, you can't use this to keep training more powerful AI systems. And that has to be done internationally, because, you know, unfortunately, I think if the US and China and other countries can't trust that their rivals aren't continuing AI development in secret, then they're going to feel, you know, like they should. And so we need to have a verifiable regime where countries can be confident that nobody is building it.
I wanted to go to President Trump. who was questioned after the recent AI hacks about calls to increase regulations on AI firms.
Well, we're looking at AI, we're looking at controls. We're also making sure that we lead. So we're leading China in AI by a lot. China has virtually no controls. It's freewheeling a little bit. So we have to be careful in both ways. We don't want to restrict them, where all of a sudden we come in second to China. Whoever wins with AI is going to win. That's how big it is. So it's bigger than the internet ever was. It's bigger than anything ever was. So I don't want to restrict. I know many of these people. I don't want to restrict them from doing great work.
I know many of these people. I don't want to restrict them from doing great work. I mean, of course, we know the billionaire owners of these increasingly consolidated companies are also paying for the politicians not to regulate them. And I'm wondering, David Kruger, if you can talk about, I mean, the fueling of this is also China might get ahead of us. Trump continually says this. But get ahead of us on what? You talk, for example, about the global decision to regulate, to ban human cloning. How would you compare this to that? What should be regulated, stopped from going forward, and what should be encouraged?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple in my mind. The main thing is stop training bigger, more intelligent, more powerful AI systems. And then the question is just how can we do that? And we've talked a bunch about that, and it's about the hardware. So, but what I think is really important for people to understand is why am I calling for that instead of some sort of regulation that might seem, less extreme or more like, light touch or something where we can continue to, innovate or get more benefits from AI. And there's a few reasons for that. I mean, one is just the extreme urgency where I think basically it's like the house is on fire and we need to, step one, put out the fire. But the other is, the basic science and engineering of how to build AI and how to control it is something that we are, very lacking in. And I've been doing this research for like over a decade, and we're nowhere near where we need to be. And that's why, that's one of the reasons you see things like OpenAI builds an AI system. They try and keep it in a box so that they can do safety testing. During the safety testing, it breaks out of that box and it hacks into another AI company. That's a completely insane, like sci-fi thing to be happening, but that's just what I and other people have been saying. That's what we should expect to happen with the way that we're building AI, with how little we understand it and how primitive our techniques are for controlling it. It's really like, we just don't know what we're doing. And so there's no set of regulations, no set of rules, no set of standards, best practices, anything like that that you could point at and say, if everyone does that, we'll be safe. We just don't know how to build it safely. End of story. And, it's not something we can expect research to solve at any point in the foreseeable future. We've been working on it for over a decade, and we've made very little progress.
So, David, could you also explain what superintelligence is, something about which many have been warning, and how close artificial intelligence is to becoming superintelligent? That is to say, what would it mean for AI to exponentially outperform humans at everything? You've said if we get to superintelligence, this would be the most significant event in all of human history. David.
Yes. So there's a lot of different terms here, general intelligence, superintelligence. Some people like to call superintelligence godlike AI to emphasize just how much more powerful and intelligent AI could get than humans. Right now we're kind of building AI systems that are very good at certain things like coding, math. They have very wide, knowledge of roughly everything that's on the internet. But they're still not as good as people at some forms of like common sense reasoning and things like this. So we're still not at the point where AI is really as smart as a person in every relevant regard. But that's just what people call like human level or AGI, human level AI. And then the concern is that not only will we have those AI systems, which already could take everybody's job and completely disrupt society, but shortly thereafter, AI might get vastly more intelligent than humans. And so just like, you know, people are using AI to make novel medical breakthroughs and you know, hack computer systems and find bugs that nobody did for decades and solve unsolved math problems, they could also develop, you know, incredibly powerful and dangerous new technology, like new forms of biological weapons, for instance. And besides that sort of like, you know, technological ability, they would also be very good at sort of, you know, the social engineering, manipulation, like strategy, all of these things that allow humans to like get ahead in society and have power over each other. We're talking about AIs that are like able to think, you know, 2 steps ahead of the smartest, most strategic people, or 10 steps ahead.
We just have 30
and
seconds,
this recursive
David.
Self-improvement.
We just have
Yeah.
30 seconds. Are you concerned about the transformation of warfare by AI?
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of times people I've talked to are like, I don't think we're going to lose control. I don't think it's going to wipe us out. I'll be worried when I start to see, you know, killer robots marching in the streets. And a lot of my colleagues have said that, and a lot of my colleagues have said they would never work at a company that was doing that kind of work. And unfortunately, all the AI companies now are working more and more with the military to automate more and more killing and military decision-making. And I think it's incredibly dangerous for really obvious reasons. It's dystopian. It's like straight out of Terminator. And I wish I would see more people like my colleague Alex Turner quit their jobs over this, as they essentially promised they would years ago.
I want to thank you so much for being with us, David. David Kruger, Assistant Professor of Robust Reasoning and Responsible AI at the University of Montreal, founder of Evitable, a nonprofit that educates the public about the risks of AI. We'll link to your piece in USA Today. No, AI isn't inevitable. We should stop it while we can. David Kruger is at a massive AI conference in Las Vegas that's wrapping up today. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.
It is a 5-alarm political fire for Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican Party, as poll after poll after poll shows Trump reaching new lows seemingly by the day and bringing his party down with him. It appears to be driven by the dumpster fire of an economy in the telling of voters. The pollster Nate Silver has found that Trump's aggregated polling is near rock bottom, just 38% approving of his job performance on average, and a record 58% of all Americans on average disapproving of Donald J. Trump. That is the lowest that anyone has reached at this point in their term since the year 1946. Not surprisingly, those new lows are driven by voters' anger and frustration with Donald Trump's economic record. Trump is underwater 28 points on his handling of the economy, once a strong suit for him. Just 33% approve. An eye-popping 43% underwater on his handling of inflation, which is 26% approving. In the face of these historic lows, Trump hit the road to try to, we surmise, improve his standing with voters somehow on this issue of the economy. Here's how Trump tried to do that last night in Vegas, trying to make the case for his historically unpopular economic performance. Watch.
And when oil goes down, we may have to send it up again. I used to say that tariffs are my favorite word. I love tariffs. They're my favorite word in the dictionary, tariff. I love tariffs, right? I call them Democrats because their policies are so dumb. You exchange the E with a U, and nobody knows that dumb doesn't have a B. We inherited a terrible mess. I inherited a mess from Obama. I saw polls today on television and say, Donald Trump polls on the economy aren't good. The economy is the greatest economy we've ever had by far. The economy aren't good. They're fake polls, just like fake writers.
The economy is the best economy we've had by far. To prove it to you, I'm going to switch the E to a U in the word Democrats. Okay. Bring it on, I guess, is the response. Spoken like a president who might be about to lose his TV time. He wasn't done there, though. This was a remarkable speech. Take a look at the whole thing if you have an extra, I don't know, hour and a half to kill. He went on to tell the crowd gathered there to see him and listen to his word games, letter swaps in Las Vegas, Nevada, that if they do nothing else, they must vote for Michael Whatley for governor. He was really specific about that. Now, two problems. Whatley is not running for governor. Whatley is running for Senate. Whatley is not running for Senate in Nevada. He is running for Senate, not governor, in the state of North Carolina, which happens to be 2,000 miles away from where Donald Trump was last night. And yes, everyone misspeaks, including me, but Donald Trump told the crowd in Las Vegas, Nevada, to vote for Whatley for governor twice.
That's twice.
Donald Trump telling voters to trust him and not their own eyes or ears or wallets, even as his base turns away from him, is where we begin today with Democratic strategist Liz Smith. She's an advisor for majority Democrats and the bench. Also back with us, my friend and colleague, senior political analyst, host of the Runaway Country podcast, author of the Substack, How the Hell, Alex Wagner is back. Wags, I've missed you. I'm glad you're back with us. I know you've been podcasting and busy doing all your own things, but so much has happened. And I try not to watch a lot of Trump content live. I sort of need to know what I'm getting into. It's actually how I read thrillers as well. I need to know how they end these days. But this was amazing. And I sort of think maybe we should all go offline someday and like watch one of these speeches together and just stop every time he says something wrong, crazy, deranged, or politically damaging, because he did all of that over and over again last night.
I'd rather like go get a joint colonoscopy with you than watch Trump speeches in my free time with you. But having said that, I also try and avoid them. But the one last night was a real humdinger. First of all, when you are the president and you are on the campaign trail and you are stumping for someone else, like the one thing you're supposed to do is get the name of the candidate right. And the fact that he's stumping for someone 2,000 miles away tells you all you need to know about Trump's mental state and his intellectual acuity. True. The other piece of it that I think is really interesting is Las Vegas tourism is down by, I think, almost double digits because foreign tourists, including Canadians, Mexicans, and Europeans, are not going to the Strip. Why aren't they going? Could it be that Donald Trump has decimated our relationship with European allies and Canadians, has taken retributive economic measures, and all those tourists are like, why would I go to the United States? Why would I go to Las Vegas? I mean, the idea that somehow Lombardo, who's the, Republican gubernatorial candidate in this race, is pointing to Trump's stewardship of the economy as something to wrap his arms around. Very questionable political strategy in a state like Nevada, to say nothing of the fact that once Trump gets up there, he can't even remember who he's stumping for. So yeah, like all of these data points, like events like last night, go a long way in showing why, as Nate Silver points out in his column today on Substack, he's underwater on issues where he used to be healthfully in a net positive. I think he's dropped I think I wrote down the number here. On the economy, he went from a positive 7.3 approval rating to a net negative 28.8 rating. I mean, that is just hemorrhaging support on the issue that keeps you in office. So good luck to all the Republicans whose names Trump can't remember who he's going on the campaign trail for.
This person who actually is the Republican governor spoke. So I don't know why Whatley was in his brain, but I really am curious, Liz, if you think he didn't know. Let me show you the guy. This is the Republican governor of Nevada.
Quite often when the press and the media runs him down, they think about, he's taking care of his billionaire friends. But those billionaire friends provide jobs. And unless you take care of them, those jobs are absent.
So, first of all, MAGA has gone from Make America Great Again to warm fuzzies for all the billionaires. Quote, take care of them. That's the new message. But do you think he didn't know who that was, or do you think he didn't know where he was? Like, why do you think 2 times he calls out the Senate candidate in North Carolina?
Well, I think Whatley had a pretty bad day yesterday. It turned out that he had called for getting rid of FEMA, so maybe that's why he was on the brain. But can we just go back to what Lombardo said? That's the sort of comment that you usually get from like a fundraiser that leaks. Instead, he just went out and said that just in front of all the media, in front of a big crowd, and sort of giving away what the Republicans' priorities are. But I want to go back to one thing that Alex said that was really smart, was talking about how the tourism industry in Nevada has been hit hard by Trump's policies. And that's how I think Democrats are going to be able to win this argument, not just by saying, okay, Trump is bad, but talking about the local impacts and things that they would do differently. You mentioned I'm an advisor to groups like The Bench and Majority Democrats. And at The Bench, what we do is we find oftentimes first-time candidates, people who have a lot of experience in their communities, who can speak uniquely to the things going on, not in like legislative speak that we all know Democrats often fall into. And when Bobby Polito in South Texas goes out and talks about the affordability crisis, he talks about how ICE raids are raising prices. He goes with the South Texas builders and says these ICE raids are creating labor shortages that are raising home prices, average home price per house by $10,000 to $20,000. We have people like Jamie Yeager, a farmer and a small businessman, who talks about USDA cuts, how they cut, a big contract he had to give homegrown beef to local schools, and how the Trump administration's policies are waging war on family farmers. And I think having that sort of perspective where we can criticize Trump, but also talk about the local effects of this and how it's hitting people at home is really, really important.
Can't see, dude. I don't want to hear the fan. It's actually crazy how much noise that fan makes.
I agree. You got to hit him on the issues. And Paxton should be doing that. Where's Paxton? I've seen Mitch McConnell more than Paxton. McConnell's been in the hospital all summer.
Dude, these fucking
Get out of your hole, Paxton, and do something.
Magic.
I can't win this race for you. It's not on Fox. Go raise some money, do a hit, and lay the lumber to this guy.
Wow, he's
mad.
I
agree. You got to hit him on the issues. And Paxton should be doing that. Where's Paxton? I've seen Mitch McConnell more than Paxton. McConnell's been in the hospital all summer. Get out of your hole, Paxton, and do something. I can't win this race for you. It's not on Fox. Go raise some money, do a hit, and lay the lumber to this guy. I mean, he's younger, and he's got a little energy, and he's new or whatever. But come on, if you lose this seat for Republicans in Texas, you should seek asylum in Mexico. This cannot happen.
Just so you understand how not good that moment was, Fox lives in a reality of its own making. Fox pretends that Donald Trump is a genius. They pretend that the Epstein files have been fully released. They pretend that Todd Blanche is a legit attorney general.
That's crazy.
They have zero shame about faking out their own audience. So for those people to not be able to polish the turd that is Ken Paxton's campaign really does say something. And look, in fairness,
he's literally
Ken
speaking
Paxton
to Ken.
hasn't been completely absent. There was this gem of a moment right here.
General, I wanted to give you a chance to respond to State
fucking
Representative
cowboy
Talarico and his campaign. They've made a lot about the reports that have come out.
I'm gonna die.
One in the New York Times about you acquiring properties worth.
So, Jack, can we keep this to law enforcement today?
Well, I'm giving you the opportunity to answer that question.
I'd like to
My name is Talarico.
To law enforcement. So that's what I'm going to answer.
Handcuffed to my record.
Gromer, did you want to go?
Will you answer a question?
Handcuffed to his record.
Talarico. Clear that up.
We're just going to do questions on law enforcement today because we're joined with 22 amazing law enforcement officers.
I have a question.
We're going to get out of here. Thank you, guys.
I have a question.
Yeah, we're going to get out of here. Thank you.
Can we not have more than one person answer a question?
What's your question?
We heard from Talarico today He's campaigning on, it is. He's campaigning
What the
on.
fuck was that?
Unaffordable
Even old
childcare.
guys are
That was
like,
Paxton
what the
bolting
fuck?
when asked to respond to allegations that he's
What a
collected
pussy.
15 homes on a government salary. And my favorite part about this is that he claims that he doesn't want to talk about Tellerico, so he tries to offset the question while standing in front of a podium that literally says James Tellerico's name and has a photo of James Tellerico. In other words, he wants to be able to attack Tellerico, but not have to answer for any of Tellerico's accusations against him. Always ready to throw punches, but physically incapable of taking them. Or how about this moment right here?
Mr. Paxton, did you commit voter fraud?
Oopsie. Fucking Texas. Let's take Texas, boys.
So if you're wondering why he's getting hit with questions on voter fraud, that's because Paxton, who built so much of his brand around this idea that he would take a hardline stance against voter fraud, is now himself the subject of an investigation by ProPublica and Texas Tribune, which found that Ken Paxton voted in 6 elections over the past 2 years using an address of a Collin County home that he no longer lives in. His estranged wife, State Senator Angela Paxton, stated in her divorce filings that he moved out roughly 2 years ago following their
he's a
split.
piece of shit.
Where he's actually been residing since isn't entirely clear, though prior
if his
reporting
wife
has
is
linked
kicking
him
him
to a
out.
separate home in Denton County, which, if true, would make him ineligible to vote in Collin County elections at all. Voting from an ineligible address is generally a second-degree felony under Texas law, punishable by up to 20 years in prison
who's doing the
and a
voter fraud now,
$10,000 fine.
bitch?
Tellerico has seized on the
Yeah, he's a
allegations
professional.
directly. He said that Paxton was, quote, committing voter fraud the whole time, voting illegally in 6 elections in a row from the wrong address.
What's up?
Paxton has so far declined to answer reporters' questions about his residency and voter registration.
looking-
So, yeah,
I
guess
seen
I'm
a
not
video from
entirely
Brian in a
surprised that
while.
Paxton would run from.
He's looking like a bear now. Woodsy guy. That beard. Very flexible, like a, exactly.
These questions, considering he is now accused of doing the exact thing he predicated his brand on fighting against. Now, we might have the opportunity to see Ken Paxton on the debate stage with James Tellerico, where he could actually answer for some of this stuff.
Cooked.
Tellerico's
Oh,
campaign
God, please.
posted debate.
Oh, I want to see that so bad. We're gonna watch that. He'll get cooked. Tellerico will cook him.
Date times and locations have been set. I've accepted. We'll see if Ken Paxton has the courage to show up or if he'll run away like usual.
Have it.
Now, when asked if he'd participate, here's what he said.
That's
Mr. Paxton, should John Thune be leader if you win your race?
Are you ready to face Mr. Tellerico in a debate, sir?
Whoop.
So,
he's going to
not
Downing
exactly
Street.
promising.
Ken
Tellerico
Downing.
spoke out about this on air here.
So you've agreed to these 3 debates. The schedule is September 22nd, all Tuesdays, September 22nd, October 6th, October 13th. Ken
Yeah, like you said,
Paxton
he's a
and the
professional.
Republican TV ad campaign has
professional
been throwing
piece of
all
shit.
sorts of junk at you. And so this first time we're going to see you confronting this very directly with Paxton will be September 22nd. Do you expect him to bring into the debate all the kinds of
I bet you he's the same.
insulting junk?
He's the same on the street as he is in as he'll be in the debate. I guarantee it.
Been throwing around.
Weak.
Well, you know, Ken Paxton has not accepted any of these debates yet. When I get tough questions, I answer them. When Ken Paxton gets tough questions, he runs away, literally runs away from reporters, from voters, from anyone asking hard questions. If you've given an Epstein-style sweetheart deal to an admitted child predator, you should have to answer the public's questions.
Yeah.
If you were reported to the FBI
like the big ones?
for bribery by your own staff, you should have to answer the
Christ.
public's questions. If you become a multi-million...
Speaking of ears, like, you know, have you seen the size of fucking Marco Rubio's ears? Jesus.
millionaire on a government salary and now own 15 homes on the public's dime, then you should have to answer the public's questions.
He's got the right
I get
haircut
it.
for Texas.
If I had Ken Paxton's record of corruption, I wouldn't want to answer these questions either. But he's asking for your vote. He is asking for your trust. And the people of Texas deserve answers. So I've challenged Ken Paxton to these 3 televised debates. The networks have already set
will
the
not
dates
do it.
and the times and the
guarantee it.
locations. We're just waiting on Ken Paxton. I'm not afraid of tough questions. We'll see if Ken Paxton can say the same.
So there could be an empty chair at these debates.
There might be. And Ken Paxton has a long...
Dude, he should just hold the debate anyway and then switch to the empty chair and then answer the question with one of his stupid remarks.
History of saying one thing and doing another, of promising to show up and then not showing up. And so I'll believe it when he walks onto that debate stage. I think the people of Texas deserve answers to their very legitimate questions about his career of corruption. He hasn't debated in more than a decade. He hasn't made himself available to questions from the public. And I think that should end this November as Texans face this very important choice on November 3rd.
I'm going to say even Texans at this point are going to be like, we need answers. So I don't think that someone that's not going to answer questions is going to get very far in general in any election going forward. I mean, the Democratic Party is hated. The Republican Party is hated. Sounds like they're going to start a third party.
The reality is that I almost understand why Ken Paxton is absent, considering the only thing worse than him being completely MIA on the campaign trail is him actually being present on the campaign trail. Because when we do see Ken Paxton, he has to answer for the massive amounts of corruption and scandals that he's involved in. This is somebody who was indicted in 2015 on felony securities fraud charges, for which he ultimately paid $300,000 in restitution. In 2020, senior deputies in his own office...
And you know, motherfuckers out here in the streets think that because you paid money, that you're not guilty. Or you know what I mean? Like, because you settled, for example, for $500,000. It's just a fine. You didn't break the law. That's the result of a law breaking. You're lucky you didn't go to jail and you only had a fine. Like, what the fuck?
Office reported him to the FBI, alleging he'd abused his power to help political donor Nate Paul, including issuing favorable legal opinions and pushing for investigations into Paul's business rivals, allegedly in part because Paul had employed a woman with whom Paxton was having an extramarital affair. Those whistleblowers were fired. Several later won a $6.6 million judgment against his office for exactly that. And the scandal snowballed into a historic 2023 impeachment by the Texas House, which was voted on 121 to 23. This is a Republican-led House, although the state Senate ultimately acquitted him. On top of all of that, his marriage to State Senator Angela Paxton ended in a headline-grabbing divorce that cited both infidelity and his conduct in office. And now, as I mentioned before, he's dealing with those accusations that he may have voted illegally in 6 elections over the past 2 years from an address that he no longer lives at. To claim that Ken Paxton is a disaster candidate is an insult to disasters. And yet, this is par for the course in today's GOP. Hopefully, voters in Texas realize that blind allegiance to one political party is not worth elevating the most corrupt people in America into positions of power.
But BTC, nah. He did freak out, though. Okay, here we go. Damn.
Tonight, President Trump is trying a new way to restrict birthright citizenship and crack down on so-called birth tourism by denying visas to some pregnant women.
Very big crackdowns, and this will give us the right to do it in a much more forceful manner.
In June, the Supreme Court narrowly shot down the president's previous attempt to deny automatic citizenship to children of non-citizens born in the U.S., ruling the broader executive order he signed at the beginning of his second term was unconstitutional because it violated the 14th Amendment.
It was close, but a very, very unfortunate decision. So we're making adjustments because it's very unfair.
These new executive orders are more narrow, including applying to children born of foreign diplomatic staff working on behalf of another government while in the U.S., children of people who belong to federally declared terrorist groups, and children born of mothers who enter the U.S. solely for the purpose of having a child on U.S. soil, known as birth tourism.
They've taken birthright citizenship and they've made a joke out of it. They're buying their way in. and we're not going to let it happen.
The White House calling it a broken system, allowing foreigners access to U.S. government benefits.
If you're telling a consular officer you're here as a tourist,
shut up.
But your true purpose and intent is
Stephen.
to go to a baby mill, give birth, and try to mint an American citizen while you're here, then you're committing a fraud against the American government.
But tonight, LULAC responding the 14th Amendment is not a policy preference.
And Gabe, tonight we're already hearing from potential legal challengers to the president's actions.
Yes, Tom, several groups are looking through these executive orders tonight. The ACLU tells us no matter how many executive orders President Trump signs, birthright remains the law of the land. Tom?
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
The 14th Amendment's written for a certain reason. Like, what the fuck are they thinking? I'll just write an executive order. We figured it out. Exactly, that's what he's trying. Yeah. In the meantime, he'll crack down. Saying he has immunity. Whatever, right? Yeah, typical. Hello? Where's my next video? Hello? The playlist is not working. Chat. What the fuck? Court is too slow. I agree.
Mamdani is arguably the most popular Democrat in the country right now in elected office. When you look at polling, Bernie Sanders and AOC give him a run for his money. But I don't know if you want to be making that argument. However, Mike Johnson and the Republicans have been circulating a memo throughout the caucus that says lean into anti-communism as a way. That's our best midterm argument right now, because we can't make an argument about the economy being better. No. We can't make an argument about getting us out of any wars. Trump just got us into the worst one. We have nothing to offer. So we'll do Red Scare tactics, and they rope in Muslim people into this effort. So Mamdani here was asked about Mike Johnson's post, which this reporter will read out to him, talking about how dangerous people like him and Abdul al-Sayed are for America.
To hear what he said.
Please.
He said, there is an urgent question facing America. Are we going to maintain our status as the world's greatest superpower and beacon of liberty, opportunity, and security, or allow radical Marxist Democrats to destroy the very foundations that make us the envy of the entire world? Then he has a new paragraph. Democrats now openly express disdain for America and embrace the failed, dangerous, deadly path of communism. We must take a stand and fight to protect the greatest nation in the history of the world from being overrun by mini Mamdanis. So
it's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Mini Mamdanis.
The pro account. Well, I'm assuming that's in response to Abdul al-Sayed's victory yesterday evening. And I think first I'd just like to congratulate Dr. Abdul al-Sayed on his victory.
Oh, yeah, it's good audio.
He ran a campaign where it was best described by his words of money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all. And if those simple commitments and beliefs are what drives Representative Johnson to these kinds of conclusions, I think it shows you how deeply out of touch the Republican Party is with the concerns of working class Americans. Because what we have seen is, despite him facing more than $60 million in outside spending, he was able to prevail with a focus on a cost of living crisis and the way in which healthcare is exceedingly out of reach for those who have helped to make this country what it is.
Thank you. Captain, go ahead.
Boom. Later in the press conference, he also said that Abdul al-Sayed can't be a mini Mamdani because he benches more than me. Just perfect responses to everything. But this level of naked xenophobia Islamophobia is going to be, I mean, it's
an actual emergency,
yeah.
And it's not being treated like such by our media that wants to talk about anti-Semitism without linking it to like the actual reason it's rising, which is Israel's actions. But the anti-Muslim sentiment here is at such a, I mean, it's rising so fast. I call it a fever pitch, but like it's still gaining, and it reminds me of reading like Eric Foner, Reconstruction, about the rise of Jim Crow and the way like those white supremacists, would be soon to be Klansmen, would talk about Reconstruction and black people in power and that sort of thing. These are just the same people,
version 2.0,
just a few generations removed. These are Klan kids.
Yeah. Yep. And they understand too why they should be more afraid of DSA candidates than the standard liberal that will fold and will make their arguments for them before they use it, basically, just in a more watered down way.
A third way is, basically giving them kind of like running their attacks before they get a chance to.
Right. So they're concerned about Abdullah Sayed, even though he is not DSA, but they're also concerned about the fact that we now have 7 DSA members that are going to be in Congress next term. You have AOC, you have Claire Valdez, Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier, you have Chris Rabb, Melot Kiros, and then Donovan McKinney and Rashida Tlaib, who now make up the 2 representatives from Detroit, which is a very Democratic and very black city. And if with black voters being the base of the Democratic Party, that's why they were trying to bring in Clyburn at the 11th hour here. Now both parts of the city are being represented by DSA members, DSA endorsed representatives. So Mike Johnson is freaked out, and he should be. But let's be aware of the racist arguments that they're going to use to desperately attempt to keep DSA members and people like Abdullah Sayed out of power.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day.
David, we live in interesting times.
Yes, we do, man. We live in very interesting times. And, sometimes I wish I had a kind of a guide to walk us through these interesting times.
Well, how about a guide who was the youngest ever hired columnist by the New York Times is Ross Douthat, who now does a podcast for them called Interesting Times with Ross Douthat. And I think maybe we talked about when Hasan was on that show. I'm trying to think of some of the other interviews.
Was Hasan on that?
I think so. I can't remember. But Bhaskar Sankara of Jacobin and The Nation was on recently, and they're talking about a society without capitalism. And we have a couple parts that we want to talk about from this, which was a good appearance by Bhaskar. This is the section here, but coming up right in the middle, is democratic socialism compatible with capitalism? And let's just see how this question was asked and Bhaskar's response here.
Just pulling back, I feel like we've danced around this a little bit, so let me just ask it directly. Is democratic socialism compatible with capitalism?
In the long term, no. We're anti-capitalist. We want a world beyond capitalism. But in the short term, while we're within a capitalist economy, of course, we need firms that are profitable, that are providing employment, that are providing taxation. Yes. So I think to govern in the short term as social democrats, we need profitable firms. But in the long term, I don't hide my desire that I think the economy should be socialized, even if I think in this socialized economy, there needs to be a role for markets and also a role for worker-controlled firms to be able to meet people's needs and provide new goods and services.
What's the distinction you make between capitalism and markets then?
Well, I think markets existed before capitalism. Capitalism is a regime of property ownership that says that as an individual capitalist or as a corporation, we own this private property. We use this private property to employ people and to produce goods and services. And in my...
He's not talking about your piece of land. He's not talking about that.
My vision of a just society, of a socialist society, that private property would be controlled by ordinary workers who would get their financing from public banks, who would still operate with hard budgets. They would still need to meet goods and services and meet their payroll obligations and things like that. But you don't have a class of people who, as individuals, control investment decisions.
Okay, so I want
to. I mean, we can maybe hold that for a minute. First of all, I highly suggest people go and listen to this interview full. I think Bhaskar did an incredible job, and I think this is a good bit here. I think it's a good bit. I think for the New York Times audience, and I also think it's probably going to be a good bit for our audience here, because I think what Bhaskar is doing very successfully in that clip is making a very specific pitch and case for socialism, one as a system that is not just like living in the clouds, but actually what that might look like in the real world on planet Earth. But more importantly, he's also turning capitalism and our understanding of capitalism and directing people's views of it, understanding of it, the way they're thinking about it towards class and towards like the power, imbalance of the capitalist class over the rest of us. Because when you treat capitalism as, for example, just like markets, which I think a lot of socialists, particularly like people who haven't really maybe engaged in a lot of these more like theoretical.
Read Karl Marx.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like, oh, well, markets, because like, for example, capitalists say they want free markets. Therefore, capitalism, like the soul of capitalism, is the market. So I think, anyways, I think it's a good appearance for many reasons. But that I think doing two things at once, helping people outside of the left or people who might not consider themselves to be democratic socialists understand what socialists believe, what a socialist economy might look like, and also I think correctly kind of pointing people on the socialist left maybe back to a stronger theoretical understanding of capitalism.
Yes,
it's fascinating, and I actually do think Douthat is a smart guy. It's fascinating just the level we're at in this conversation. However, where whether you are a New York Times writer or indeed call yourself a Marxist, but think in your mind that markets and capitalism are synonymous, like Bhaskar gave a pretty strong context clue when he said worker-owned firms participating in markets, and that wouldn't almost necessitate, which, I mean, for the audience, for most audiences now, you do need to spell that out, but it's kind of clear what that means. And the historicization of, yes, markets predated capitalism by, I mean, centuries. And it reminded me of this tweet from Jane Coaston. Jane is host of Crooked Media's What a Day, and has worked with the New York Times and CNN, and at no point in any of those institutions did she ever learn what the working class meant. So she said,
I saw this. Yeah, this is great.
First, we need to figure out what working class means, which is okay. I forget the guy who's the Marxist writer who's written about like the different sort of class.
Eric Olin Wright.
Exactly. So like there is work to be done on this. Jane Coaston doesn't appear to have looked into any of that, because what she says here, I keep thinking about this because media politicians say working class, in parentheses, people who work for wages, but we mean not that. Like, we're not talking about nail techs when we say working class. We know we're not talking about nail techs. Why is that? What? What on earth does she mean?
It's
nail
crazy.
techs?
It's crazy. It is unbelievable, I think, for how much inroads we've maybe made as a movement politically in the past few years. The fact that we still have like major political commentators who haven't even like engaged with these questions at like an elementary level. And I'm not trying to be a snob or anything like that. I understand why there's a lot of confusion in general. Yeah. But if your job is to kind of like read things and engage with other people's arguments, and you haven't done like the very basic homework, it's quite shocking. And again, not to plug it too much, but Bhaskar and Ben and Mike Beggs do have this really great book that's coming out, The Blueprint, which I have been reading. I'm working on a review for it now. and that would probably be helpful for folks. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of information on this topic, and maybe subscribe to Jacobin to Catalyst if you want to have a deeper understanding of what these things mean.
Hello?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's like is it the Grundrisse where Marx gets into like productive versus unproductive labor? Like, that's maybe what she thinks she's getting at, or something like that.
I don't think so. I mean, I think I think it is the classic thing of like blue collar versus non-blue collar. And that's how most Americans, particularly like liberal commentators, think about the working class versus non-working class position. But I mean, yeah, it's something else.
Nail techs. So nail techs, because they service white collar workers, at least in theory. That again, it's like people just will get on and tweet things, it's like, I don't know. Hit the books. Like, this is supposed to be part of like your proficiency, that you are able to research various different. Like, there is no perspective that doesn't say nail techs. Like, whether you're for the liberal sense of like,
maybe the MAGA communist LARPer guys.
That's what she's influenced by. That's crazy.
Well, let's get, because I think again there's a lot of confusion, and I know we had another bit, Matt, but if we could actually go to 29 in the thing, I think this is actually because we'll get to the American history thing in a second, but I think this is a good bit that I think Bhaskar did a phenomenal job on, which is actually like disentangling this idea that like the left, the socialist left at least, was responsible for quote unquote woke.
Yeah, right.
Because it was the center that pushed that stuff. They pushed it to break the Bernie Sanders campaign, to attack the Bernie Sanders campaign, and the idea that it's our kind of legacy is quite laughable. I think Bhaskar does a great job with this, so maybe we put this up.
Yeah, this is actually in conjunction with the piece we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
About America being racist. So yeah, here's Bhaskar. And I'm going to get a little bit of Douthat's question in here too, just for context.
So to some extent, it does sound like you think that the left took a wrong turn in sort of peak woke early 2020s culture war. And maybe the wrong turn was partially just talking about America like it was the most racist country in the history of the world. Like is basically, was there a turn that the left took in that period that socialism can help correct?
Well, I actually blame more the center and the center left for a lot of these things. And I think that it was the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016 that tried to draw these extreme contrasts. I remember Bernie Sanders was killed because he had an ad with a Simon and Garfunkel song on it, America.
That was such a great ad. I remember when that ad came out.
Yeah, I'm going to skip a little bit ahead, folks, but just so we can get through this music. But here is them picking up on this ad.
Right before the caucus in Iowa and the primary in New Hampshire, and they said, there's too many white people and it's too rural. Is this your vision of America, socialist?
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
So I think a lot of this came from those directions. I also think that
just so people are aware of this, it is a really interesting part of what happened in Democratic politics, right? The Hillary Clinton campaign, which was the more centrist campaign, or perceived that way, really did sort of try and use identity politics issues against Sanders. It's true that the center sort of tried to weaponize identity politics against the left, but the left didn't necessarily resist, did it?
I think by the time he ran in 2020, Bernie did try to frame more things. His old universal demands he kept, but he would explain why they were good, often in terms of closing disparities.
Right.
We need Medicare for all, and Medicare for all is anti-racist because disproportionately it's going to help uninsured people who are black and brown. And, at a certain level, obviously that's right. But it seems like a weird way to pitch a universal program is talking about, disparity. But I would push back on just one thing you said, which is America was the most racist country in the history of the world. And I think the left actually does a great discredit to its own history when it pretends like it still is, because we're a country that fought a revolution led by the left, in my opinion, that abolished slavery by force of arms, not slow and gradual emancipation. We fought against Jim Crow, and we got rid of that, also with socialists largely, at the helm, or at least playing major roles. And then we got to the point where we elected a black president, and that black president won even the state of Indiana in 2008. And it just seems so strange that it was in part the election of Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton that convinced so many Americans, so many liberals particularly, but even some leftists, that America was irredeemably racist when those same voters had just voted for a black president twice. So in a way, I think I want to recover some of the optimism about the U.S. we felt during the Obama years. And also,
because we vote for black guy doesn't mean
still feel
we're
about
not
the
racist.
U.S. as so many immigrants, Latino and other immigrants feel about the U.S., which is they came here for a reason. This is
that the Hillary Clinton class, I would just spell out for folks, whether they actually believed that or whether they just didn't want to reach any other conclusion. What Hillary Clinton and that type of politics, which is still active today, wanted was for America to be so not racist that they didn't need to provide anything else, particularly in the way of political economy, or wealth inequality, or any underinvestment in communities. All of that stuff gets papered over because we are less racist than Republicans, and they hate that that didn't work out. I mean, he mentions that ad in Simon & Garfunkel. What else do you need to point to besides Hillary Clinton trolling Bernie about too big to fail banks by saying, if we end too big to fail, will that cure racism? There was no policy Hillary Clinton was offering that was going to end racism in the United States.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's really, really important as, our movement continues to flex its muscles and grows, that there is an accurate understanding of where a lot of that kind of what we might call peak woke stuff, where it came from. And I think, secondly, where Bhaskar goes after is totally correct. It is fundamentally correct. And I think, the left really does itself a disservice when instead of actually centering the role of our movement, the role of our movement's fight for democracy and the strength that it has had, the victories that it has won, when it kind of throws that away so easily, it really makes our movement seem impotent. It makes our movement seem like less of a material force, and instead more of a kind of a moral watcher, something that sees the wrongs in American society and kind of chronicled those wrongs. No. The left has been a force that has fundamentally changed people's lives for the better and has taken on, the foundations of a society that was set up with legalized human bondage and broke that system. And we should be able to connect ourselves to that fight today. I mean, I remember something in my book, in the Myth of Red Texas, reading a speech by Arthur Lee Emerson, who's one of the leaders of the Brotherhood of Timber Workers, one of the first interracial unions in the country, organizing black and white workers in the Jim Crow South, in East Texas, in West Louisiana. And him actually connecting the movement that those people were in then to the fight against slavery as this long chapter of the left, this long fight that they were involved in. And you see that get severed. That historical connection got severed in, across the board. As with the Red Scare, the destruction of the socialist movement, and it is to our discredit that we're not able to kind of see that long arm of our movement today, because there is a connection there. And I'll just kind of paraphrase Adolph Reed on this as well. That Adolph Reed says when people say nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, in this country. He's no. Like, there's a civil rights movement. Like, there were like the world that I was born into is very different from the world that I live in today. And don't be so quick to kind of turn your back on and throw away these victories to kind of score moralism points with other people, because, fundamentally that is a pessimistic position. It is a position that is also kind of articulating like an impotence of the fights against racism, against the right, against conservatism and anti-human politics.
Yeah, and like you say, like the sell yourself short and buying into narratives that, okay, socialism doesn't have anything to speak for besides like white gentrifiers. All this stuff is historically horseshit. The Nonpartisan League, close to my heart because of North Dakota, populist movement in North Dakota, also promoted the Democratic Farm Labor Party in Minnesota, originally started by socialists, explicit socialists. Like that's the sort of thing where it's like, okay, well, this speaks to like white North Dakotans and Minnesotans. Well, Nellie Stone Johnson was the first black woman elected into office in Minnesota. She was a DFL activist. Like, these narratives are malicious and they are massively harmful, and they are not deployed because they have any bearing on the truth.
And Matt, there's a reason that it's deployed by our enemies. There's a reason that this kind of stuff emanates not from our own movement, but from our political enemies, because they, I think as we opened up the show, talking about, Michael Brooks and that really great lecture that he gave.
Oh, Michael.
He says, what is it? That the right naturalizes problems and the right historicizes them. I mean, this is a great example.
The left historicizes,
the left historicizes and the right naturalizes. I mean,
yes,
that view of racism and like a racial society that you see from the centrists, that is naturalizing it. That is naturalizing these things instead of historicizing and understanding what they are, where they come from. And it's because they don't have any plan or intention of kind of dealing with it. Well, the left has, 100+ year tradition, 200-year tradition of breaking, fighting, and clawing and building a different kind of America, different kind of society. And look, I mean, it's great. It's been funny to see. It's been funny to see how shocked a lot of people were about that from the right. Obviously, you saw plenty of leftists kind of knee-jerk attacking Bhaskar, but like with many, many things in my experience, Bhaskar tends to usually be right about these things.
Absolutely. Just a little detail about Nellie Stone Johnson I didn't know before, but went to university took extension courses at the University of Minnesota, where she met Paul Robeson, who must have been
one of my heroes. Incredible.
So there you go.
All right, chat. Game time. There's an update. Damn it. I gotta make a fun other video then. Tucker says what everyone else is thinking. Okay, so this guy's got to run for president. That's great. Now it's Tucker for president. YouTube's broken.
What does sovereign mean? Sovereign means free from outside influence, the right to make decisions on your nation's behalf or your own behalf without being told what to do. Sovereignty is a synonym for freedom. The opposite of sovereignty is slavery. where you have no choice. So when your nation is not sovereign, of course, it leads to things like the Iran war, which you do under bribery or threat or both by Israel, which is exactly what happened. And everybody knows that. So you're not sovereign there.
Okay.
But more than that, people lose confidence in their own country. What is my country worth if we can't even make our own decisions? Of course, it gives a lie to the idea of a representative democracy. They're not representing me. They're representing the lobbyists, and not just from Israel, by the way, from every big industry in the United States, from tech to pharma and telecom and all of them. But certainly at Israel. I mean, that's taking place in real time. And shouting at you that you're a Nazi or a bad person for noticing isn't really adequate. It doesn't answer the question, why is this okay? Because it's not okay. And everybody knows it's not okay. So sovereignty is essential, or else why have a country? Even a monarchy, maybe especially a monarchy, is sovereign. In fact, the monarch is called the sovereign. And that means he gets to make decisions on his own, hopefully with the interests of his people in mind. But certainly in a democracy, it's central to the whole project. But it doesn't just matter to the state, it matters to the person. We have sovereignty as people. We didn't create our own lives, but we're responsible for them while we're here, despite our many connections to other people. In the end, the promise is a free man gets to make free decisions. You can't be forced, I don't know, to take some experimental medicine you don't want. No one can force you to do that. How could they force you? That means you're not in control. You don't own yourself. And if you don't own yourself, who does? So sovereignty is at the core of the country, of any country, but particularly ours. And it's not just a question of the person's relationship to the government. It's the person's relationship, I don't know, to the banks. How can a sovereign person be underwater in debt? Well, of course you can't. Because when you owe more than you can immediately repay, you're effectively owned by the person to whom you owe the money.
Well,
so debt is an attack on sovereignty. And it's important to say that because no one ever does. And so you kind of move around this society and hear people talk about their credit score as if it's a significant measure of something. Got to have a good credit score.
Nobody ever says
saying?
It. I say it.
You have to be worthy of losing your sovereignty to a bank, to a moneylender. So debt is, of course, and this has been noted in previous societies, really since the beginning of time, a form of slavery. You do not have control over your life when you owe money to people.
You're talking about capitalism, bitch.
In America, unless you're very rich or extremely disciplined beyond what the average person can be expected to maintain, you're going to be in debt. It's hard to do anything without debt. But is that good? Why are we participating in this? Why are we accepting this as the natural order? It's the most unnatural thing ever devised. And it's bad. And that's why every major religion acknowledges that it's not just unhelpful, it's
We're trying to change it. It's called capitalism.
So it might be a good starting place to say that a society organized around debt at the sovereign, at the national level, but on the personal level, is not a healthy society because it enslaves people. And it's interesting that when you do say that, and if you're ever to use the U word, usury, which is lending money at interest, which is banned, has been banned in many countries throughout time because it is bad, even mentioning that puts you on some list, at least in the minds of the people you're talking to, as like a crazy person, if not a dangerous person. That may be the real third rail, is debt. Complaining about debt. Noting that a 25% interest rate is totally immoral. And by the way, for generations, members of the mafia were put in jail for loaning money at that rate. It's called loan sharking. And it was illegal. But suddenly it's common. That's approaching the average credit card interest rate. Your credit card's in your wallet. If you don't pay every month, we'll charge you that. And not only is it legal, it's more than legal, it's encouraged because your credit rating. And by the way, so distorted is our system that you are penalized under our tax code for not having debt. How does that work? Well, consider your mortgage. Let's say you were to pay off your mortgage. You would have to pay more in taxes every year, which is to say you'd be penalized by the U.S. government for the privilege of not being in debt to a bank. Who thought up that system? Is that real? Well, it is real. And not only is it real,
capitalist.
It is once again almost never noted by anybody, but it's a form of slavery. And over time, it gives people the perception, which is rooted in reality, unfortunately, that they're not really in control of their lives. And if you do that across an entire population, it may be useful to you because you want to control what they do, but it's totally degrading to them.
Is it?
And there's no reason that should continue. It doesn't mean you're against capitalism. By the way, what role does high interest lending play in free market capitalism? Are you a communist if you're against it? No.
Oh.
The threat of communism, of course, is not that it's a ineffective economic system. The threat of communism is totalitarian control.
No, it isn't.
Well, if the entire country and every person in it is so indebted that they can't make free decisions, how is that not totalitarian control? Well, of course it is. So stop with that.
Yeah, he's going with Lenin.
Debt is a form of slavery. And our leaders are so invested in it that they'll attack you for noting it. But it's true, and everybody knows it's true. And so it's important to say that. The goal is sovereignty. No more foreign lobbyists, none.
Okay.
No more control of the agencies by industry, none. And no more government promotion of debt to high-interest moneylenders.
But you're describing capitalism,
all
sir.
Of a piece. Third, productive. A decent country is productive. Productive means that you make things worth having, from which you derive joy, that improve the lives of other people, or that just are inherently beautiful. There was a thing called art at one point that was appreciated because it was beautiful. And that's the only reason it was appreciated. It didn't do anything, but it uplifted people's spirits. And that was considered a worthy end in itself.
Art hasn't gone
All these assumptions have been erased over the past century in stages, and certainly in the last 20 years, the idea that it is your duty and pleasure to produce something worth having has kind of been lost and been replaced by the idea that the point of work is to make money to pay for all these things.
It's capitalist. He's anti-capitalist.
Cycle, and that it's your duty to do that. And you should.
Dude, you're anti-capitalist.
I don't know, getting married and having kids in order to do that, to basically to service the debt. And you can argue about, how sick that is. Obviously, it's very sick. But you can't elide past the core assumption, which is that it doesn't matter what you make. And that's a lie. It matters very much what you make. And if you doubt that, consider how we judge past civilizations. We judge them by what they make. In fact, there are many civilizations about which we know nothing, not even their name, not their language, nothing. All we have is the record, the physical record of the things they made, and we name the civilization after that, after the stone knife points or the bowls that they made. The whole civilization, to archaeologists, is summed up by their products, or the fruits of their labor, the work of their hands.
Right.
But that's true for all civilizations.
That's
and
not
we
capitalism.
judge them, and we are right to judge them by the quality and the ingenuity and, yes, the beauty of the things they made. So if you wake up one morning and your country is really only producing weapon systems and surveillance technology, both of which are
doesn't he sound anti-capitalist
in the service of evil? What the fuck is happening? That, but both of which don't really exist long term. So bad. Weapons technology is by definition expended. Surveillance technology is just ones and zeros. You're in a bad place if your main drivers of the economy are those two things, plus real estate, reselling the same land over and over.
Good.
And finance, lending money at interest.
I think so.
The sum total is what? Nothing worth bragging about.
Even though
a lot of organizations talk about supporting veterans, but not all of them actually.
I'm just asking questions. What's going on here? I don't know. That's a production too. That's like, he's only talking about physical objects. Like, what the fuck? They're just ones and zeros. Who cares? What's going on here? I'm running for president. The fuck, bro? No one ever talks about debt. Why is no one talking about debt? Something needs to be done about this debt. It's usury.
believe that for most, it is, first of all, true, as the vice president said, as hard as it is to believe, that for most recent history, which in the case of these programs would be in the history of these programs, if you committed $1 million of fraud or less, you were unlikely to ever be criminally punished in any way at all. And if for some strange reason in the past, a bureaucrat had the courage to defy that agency guidance and actually bring you to trial and put you in front of a jury, you'd be unlikely to do any real jail time at all. And this may be hard to believe that you could steal hundreds of thousands and ultimately millions of dollars and not do any significant jail time. Again, you can look at the sentences for the Feeding Our Futures fraud, which is one of the largest frauds in the history of any country anywhere in Minnesota, to see this. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think probably the simplest, least conspiratorial explanation is that when Congress was drafting these statutes, they still lived, to use the phrase that used a lot today, in a high-trust society, and it eclipsed their imagination that there would be systemic, widespread, continual lying, fleecing, and organized crime to rip off hundreds of billions of dollars from the American taxpayer, which is what has happened. So there needs to be strict, clear, mandatory minimums. Because by the time you've been convicted, you have already proved.
Good. I hope you put them in place, and then we take power, and we're going to do the same thing to you, sir, and you're going to jail. And there's going to be a minimum of 50 years for you because you did some shit. So yeah, keep it up. Keep making laws. We'll be in power soon, and your evil ass will be on the street.
Proven to a jury, this is not a civil punishment. This is you've proven to a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that you deliberately.
Elon Musk has already stolen more money from us, from taxpayers, that was supposed to come back to us, than any fraud in Minnesota.
Willfully, maliciously engage in a scheme to steal from the American taxpayer.
Willfully and maliciously run crypto schemes. Your own boss is doing that and pumping and dumping people for billions. Yeah, he wants to see those fucking, people getting stabbed in the streets kind of show. That's what he wants in America. Yeah.
And from those in genuine need.
He reeks
and when
evil,
you satisfied
dude.
12 jurors of that fact and been convicted, you deserve to have a very substantial prison sentence. That change alone would be watershed for fighting fraud, because it would mean that the Department of Justice would be able to,
tiny hands,
through prosecuting a few hundred or 1,000 cases in a year, be able to chill the criminal conduct of millions. Whereas right now, no matter how many people you prosecute, you're still left with the criminal element.
His hands are so tiny. I thought they were as small as a doll's once. And then I started to think of him as a doll. That's right. Tiny hands, doll, Stephen Miller. That's
thinking
right.
I'm willing to risk 6 months in jail for $5 million in ill-gotten gains. And we've reached the point, and again, only because of President Trump and the vice president's leadership is this happening.
Ooh. I guess Mr. Trump is willing to risk billions of fraud. Okay.
We've reached a point as a country, until we came along,
your boss goes down,
where we
that means
have
you go down,
federal
Mr. Miller.
law enforcement in cities around the country who have to conduct weeks or months-long investigations of daycares where there are no children present at all, to be able to then go into a court of law and say, no kids on Monday, no kids on Tuesday, no kids on Wednesday, no kids on Thursday, right?
Yeah,
and this is the real thing. We have federal law enforcement officers who then they have to issue subpoenas and search warrants to get phone records, email records.
And then he's describing all the trouble they have to go through to make sure that there's actual fraud. And he's saying, we're not doing that anymore.
Financial records, and what does it all end up with? You go to a jury
what's with
in
the blue tie, Miller?
And you say
Turncoat.
The defendant has collected $7 million for a daycare, claiming to be taking care of 100 children for 6 months, and we found one kid attended in that entire time, and he was the nephew. So you spend months of federal effort. When you do that and you're found guilty, you belong in jail for a very long time.
Yeah, I got the right tie on. What's wrong with you? Loser. Loser. That's right. All right, we got another video here for us. What's up, Sam?
The DSA platform.
Bill Maher.
Oh, yeah, this is funny.
Upset that there is a caucus, essentially, within the Democratic Party he disagrees with.
Yes.
The DSA platform says you work as much as you are able and no more than needed. If that was any closer to Karl Marx's dictum from each according to his abilities to each
it literally is.
They'd be sued for plagiarism.
Plagiarism.
You work as much as you are able and no more than needed.
What? The television host wants to take issue with
what?
that.
Yeah. Fuck work.
No, you work as much as your boss tells you.
Yeah,
Until you
bitch.
drop.
Exactly.
80 hours.
I hope we all know that 65 to retire is an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
In some societies, I'm sure people worked until they die.
Yes.
Like what like what is the thoughtful complaint with you work as much as you are able?
Hello?
I think that's even a bit much.
Yeah, honestly. Like,
yeah, this is
Fable? What's
you
ableism?
gotta be completely depleted before you can stop work.
Yeah. He better be dead on the floor.
I just have to put this picture up. This is him last year at the White House with Kid Rock.
He's
and
playing.
Dana White. This is him in play.
Crazy chat. All right. Now here's a little bloviation from some lady from Michigan.
Familiar with this area. I'm watching this race very. I grew up in Michigan.
I grew up in Dearborn. I'm white. And I was scared for my life because I'm white.
I grew up.
Your white tears don't scare me, woman.
I grew up 20 minutes outside of Dearborn. I'm very familiar with this area. I'm watching this race very closely. I have seen firsthand what is happening in these communities. You cannot tell me that it is not happening. I have seen the forced subjugation and humiliation of women in the name of Islam. I have heard the Islamic call to prayer blasted in the streets. I have seen street signs named after literal terrorists. And I have watched as the mayor of Dearborn looked at a concerned resident in the face and told him that he didn't belong in the community because he dared raise objections to any of this. This is a problem. None of this is normal. And I'm not going to be shamed by Hassan Piker, who is now out there calling everyone who raises concerns about this Islamophobic.
The Hassan mentioned.
I'm not going to be shamed for having enough self-preservation to understand that these things are not compatible with my state. They are not compatible with my country. They are not normal, and it is not normal to have a Senate candidate who refuses to disavow any of it. I grew up 20 minutes outside of Dearborn. I'm very familiar with this area. I'm watching this race very.
No one's saying that. Yeah, and that was obviously it's not following Marx's idea. It's the complete opposite of it.
That have been.
What? I can't play my fucking slop.
It's not bad, right? I actually have a hairline.
Here we go, boys.
Is anyone else allowed to touch it?
Yeah.
Really?
Sure. I mean, it doesn't bother me.
That's daylight.
No, it's mine.
Wow.
It's mine. It's not bad, right? I actually have a hairline.
Pretty good. Yeah. Is anyone else allowed to touch it?
This is good use of AI.
Really?
Sure. I mean, it doesn't bother me.
That's daylight.
No, it's mine.
Wow.
It's mine. It's not bad, right? I actually have a hairline.
Pretty good. Yeah.
He looks like his mom.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
He wishes.
We basically
literally
have two
wishes.
countries
Oh
that
my
have
God.
been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yeah, no one's lazy under Marx. Everyone is fed. Oh. Oh, it happened, boys. It happened. Boys, it happened. Finally happened, boys. R.I.P. bitch. Loser. Rat fiend, bitch. Hope you stay banned. Ban. He won't. I wonder what he must have said some nasty ass shit if he got banned. Oh my God. What a loser. All right, we can start the game. It'd be game time. Yeah, and under Karl Marx, everyone can afford games. Because, you know, he believed in vacations. Damn, son. Game announcement. Apparently they got 1 million people. 1 million people are now playing this game. That is crazy. For an extraction shooter, that's pretty crazy, actually. Or extraction game. Let's go. That's right, I'm an old woman. Don't press me. Da, 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 da. How do I make weapons? Huh? It's not 300? Oh, that's what I have. What do I have? That's right. You can be under socialism and not work and still have your needs met. That's the idea. Carry an axe. I'm so confused, chat. Let's go buy some shit. good? That's great, chat. The fuck?
Hey, over here! I've divine weapon.
Finally. Thank you. What'd you guys get? Forge new item. What? Oh. I don't have any leather. Need to buy stuff, I guess, then. Purchase. Purchase. Need some pants. Huh? $156. Load up on heels? $156. 30, 35, 41, 25. Can't even buy myself. Now let's get this. 857. All right. Oh. Let's go. Okay. Haha. Got an epic. +6 magic. I think we can go in now. And die. Consume a beverage before you go. Give me that tonic, girl. Premium golden blood being traded. Let's go, Chad. K and E. Oh. Okay. What's happening? Oh, that's cool.
It's all up to you now.
What? Oh?
Well, color me impressed. Stay sharp. The woodlands have already slipped in.
The minstrel red shows itself. Miss this chance and you'll regret it.
Huh? Where'd it go?
This is no place to linger. The Gilded Mist is coming.
Oh! The fuck, dude? So dumb. Okay. Sure. Purple.
little woodlings are on the move again.
Take it all. Right, chat? I get the boss, huh? Gotta egg it. Go. The hell?
That woodling has a soul of return. Snatch it before another guild hunter does.
Okay.
The mist is catching up. Don't stop if you want to live.
No.
The Woodlands party slipped in. Don't get too comfortable, Guild Hunter. The Gildan Mist is coming for you.
Stressing me out, bro. Okay. He wants to go for the boss. Ring the bell. He has 3. Why'd he have 3? He should have given me one. I don't think he knows. Man, they gotta get the delay on this game better. 86 is bad. Dude, what are you doing? He's got a strong staff, though. Actually. It's fine. Alright, chat, that's going to be it for me. Gotta go. Tired as fuck today. Appreciate y'all tuning in. This game is good, actually. It's actually better than Dark and Darker. It's not hard. Dark and Darker is a lot more hardcore. Of course, this gets harder. They gotta fix the 89 milliseconds, though. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow. It'll be Friday. That's right. Bye.